Hi everybody, my name's Paul Murphy and I've got a passion for hats.
Yesterday, I took a trip to London on business, and a package arrived for me, and it was in one of these plastic bags that, you know, when you buy a what are they called, a quilt for your bed, and these things are quite big, and they come in these big plastic bags. Well, it was wrapped up in that, and when I took it off, it was this box, which is a very nice hat box, which I don't even know whether it was a manufacturer's hat box or actually made by the shop that was supplying the hat. But when I opened it, it turned out to be a Stetson that I'd bought on an auction site recently, and it just arrived through. So the hat box itself has got a really nice insert into it, which I think it's fixed into the bottom. Yeah, there's a. Let's just see if there's anything else in there. I doubt it, but no. It's just to show you the construction of how well somebody somewhere has put together this design and turned it into a box. But it's got on here, Wright Marshall Limited, 2017. So I guess that's when the hat was purchased. But it's a hat that's probably a lady's or a child's hat, because it's a Stetson 6 3/4 inch head, which is really probably about a 54, 55, something like that. I need to check actually, because I don't get many hats of that size to come in, because I mainly do men's hats. But this design just took my fancy, and I thought I would like to share the story. So the lady had bought the hat, worn it a few times, and then she told me it had been on top of the wardrobe for a number of years and just hadn't been used. So typically of what the sort of hats that I'll buy. So if you can see on here, we've got a few probably foundation or makeup marks that are on the band here that I'll need to steam off and clean. And then inside there's a few other marks in there which I'm sure I can remove as well. And I'll give the actual felt itself is a 6X felt by Stetson. Now let's just see if there's a label inside of this hat, because there normally would be a label giving me the details. So when you're finding the labels, they tend to be underneath the sweatband. So very carefully, especially on these older hats, because they can be quite dry. You know, the leather tends not to be something that people take much care in putting the leather care from car, you know, the stuff that you use for car seats and things. Clean it off with that and then feed it. But in here, there's no actual label. It looks as though it's one of the reasons I think it is a 2017 hat is also because the actual lining, I don't know if you can see that here, is stuck in rather than sewn in. And it was the older hats that Stetson and other makes would actually take the time to sew in the lining. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it through to the hat room and then start to sort of give it a real good steaming and brushing, and then just see what I'm going to make of it, because I can just leave it as it is in terms of its design, and that will be quite nice, and I'm sure it will just tighten up and look so much better than it does at the moment once it's all clean and tidy. And somebody will get a really nice hat, because unfortunately it's not going to fit me. But what I did find was that lady also included a little box. So I opened up the little box wondering what to get, and it's a, what's it called? It's a Stampede string. Now I think it's actually, there's a horsehair piece of jewellery. Now I thought it was to go around your neck or something, but actually I looked at the ends, and I'll bring it up to the camera there. If you can see those little metal bits that are coming out the end here, I think what happens is that there would have been a facility for making holes into the side of the Stetson, and then this would have been actually a chin strap that would have gone underneath the hat, ready for whoever was wearing it to be able to use the little bead here to go up and down and tighten up the chin strap. So the lady very kindly let me have that along with the hat, and it's a nice touch. I think these tassels are like this, that when you get flies around horses, and of course in hot weather you do get flies around horses, you can use this to actually get the flies away from your face. So how nice is that? So it's even got the original compliment slip from the company notatel.com, which is a company based in America. Not quite sure whereabouts in America, but in America. Anyway, that's by the by. Let's take the hat through to the hat room and give it the treatment. Right, so I've got the Stetson cowboy hat in here in the hat room, and having looked at it a bit more, it does look quite a dashing hat really, but just in need of a bit of a scrub up and refresh. So I'm going to start by first of all just cleaning the inside of the leather hat band there, and just see what we can freshen that up, how we can freshen that up really. So take a clean or relatively clean cloth, put some of the water and leather soap cleaner that I use it in the car, as I've said before, and just use it to freshen up the leather. So you're literally just going around the inside of the hat here, and just rubbing it gently, and don't need to put anything in the way of any great pressure on it. You're just slowly easing it out, and it's quite a normal thing to have this sort of markings on the inside of the hat. I do find that putting a bit of steam on there can loosen it up. So let's introduce some steam, shall we? So there we are, and now let's get this. Here we go. Got a bit of soap suds coming up now, so that will probably loosen what's on there for me, and just takes a couple of moments, and we're done. And now that's actually started to come up quite nicely. If you can, it's difficult to see in this light, but you can see that's coming up quite well, and made quite a lot of difference. And the liner has got a few marks on it. I will see if they will wipe out, but again, I think I'm going to need a bit of steam on there. Let's try some steam. So, it's the problem when you wear glasses, is that you put a bit of steam on something and bam, you can't see. Okay, I think I'm going to have to get some other cleaner out on the liner there. So I'm going to research what to do that with, but I've got some isopropanol which might sort of lift that off a bit without doing any damage. So I'll get my isopropanol out later and try and do that. And so at the moment, let's open up. I'm going to open up the shape of the hat a little bit so I can get to the actual felt to give it a good clean. So a bit of steam. Now this should just open up and allow me to have access to the hat. And what you find is when I'm forming a hat, which is very much a sort of trilby or fedora, we use the brim blocks and we use the crown blocks. The Americans, when they're anybody that's making a Western hat, if you like, use the block on the hat, of course, on the crown. But then when they come to the brim, they're then got a flat brim, and they're rolling it against their body. So they're heaping it up, and then they're just rolling it like that to get the forming. They're very much doing it sort of freehand, which I quite admire actually. So let's put a bit more steam on there for a second. There we are. What I'm going to do is, first of all, take the tape and run the tape over and just see what comes off the hat, because I'm not sure that there's a great deal of dirt below the dust on this. I think it's just dust, to be honest, and it might well be that by opening it up and actually getting a brush onto the felt, that all this will come up pretty much like new. And bear in mind, this is a 6X, which is a sort of beaver type fur felt hat. So it would have been a good quality hat in its time. And there we are. We've got a few bits. I'm being very careful because it's got a nice little feather there, which I want to keep in. The other thing is I've noticed is sometimes on a cowboy hat you can get rain marks because people wear them out in the rain and they don't sort of bother too much about them. But this one is not got too much in the way of rain marks at all. Probably see there's quite a bit of fur felt coming off there, so it's coming up quite nicely. Oh, there we are. We've run out of tape, so let's just see. There, and let's use this on the inside here, just to rub it around, and there we go. Okay, so now if I've got my stiff brush, yes. So we've got a brush which is double-sided, so one side is stiffer than the other. So I usually start with the stiff side, and just, in fact, because I want something to push against. And this is quite a small hat. It's only 6 3/4. I've got my stretcher out here, so I'm going to put it on the stretcher, and that will give me more of a bit of purchase to be able to press against, really. So just very carefully going to give it a brush. Just to freshen it up. And it's very similar to an Akubra hat in terms of its feel, and you know, it's a really nice sort of structured felt hat, to be honest. There we go. Already I can see that it's sort of freshening up the felt. Now, what you can do, if it was looking a bit down and in real need for freshening up, is use some of the sandpaper. Now this is an 800 grit, which is really what we use when we're making a new hat. Probably a bit gritty for an existing hat, but I find that these actual I guess they're what's that, foam in the middle there, and it's a very fine sort of 200 grit sandpaper. So if I were to rub that down, which I will now, on the centre of this hat, then this will start to take off some of the fur felt and freshen it all up. And that's what I'll do. And this is what's called and what's known as pouncing, and it's just freshening up the felt. And you can do this to a lesser or greater degree. When I'm making a new hat, I have been known to pounce a hat for over an hour, but the end result is fabulous. I mean, you can make a rabbit fur felt really soft, and it's such a rewarding process, to be frank. And this is coming up nicely. There's a bit of a mark down the middle there, which is coming out, and you can see it will make a bit of a mess on the floor here, but I can vacuum that up. I'm not too worried about that. So there we are. There's a bit of pouncing going on there. Now on the back here, I'm going to go around clockwise, so anti-clockwise on the top. Now we're going clockwise. It's to follow the way that the fur lays, really. So it's just giving it a little bit of a fresh up. And as I say, this is not a majorly old hat or anything. It's just, and this is just freshening up what's on there, and giving it a bit of extra life. You see, when I put some steam on here, it will bring all this to life. So let's get my softer brush, nice soft one, and I'm just going to get rid of all of that in the way of dusty. Oh gosh, look at me. I've got it all over my jacket. My wife's going to do a nut when she sees me. Right, so there we go. Yes, look at that. That's coming up. A treat. Absolute treat. So let's see if we can put some steam on this. And I'm not quite sure that it's going to need a lot of shaping. It's just going to need popping back in on the front and, you know, just a little bit. So let's have a look. So, not sure whether you can see that, but the hat has more or less taken in the steam. So taking it in as water vapour, of course. And what it's done is it's actually given it a freshness, which is lovely, really. And pop that out. You can just see there was a bit of a mark on there, and that's coming out. But yeah, that's coming up a treat. Now, let's see if we can do underneath. Now, if you've got a decent enough kettle at home that makes some decent steam, you can do a bit of this at home. But you do need something a bit more commercial, if you like, to do this to this sort of degree. There we go. Now, that, let's come back to a really nice shape. Now, the choices I've got are, do I leave this hat looking like a standard Stetson cowboy hat? I could reshape the crown here. This is what's called a cattleman crown, and it's obvious, really. The guys that were on the ranches and working the cattle used to like their hats in this sort of shape. There are lots of different variations about how this crease is put down the middle and how the indentations are worked, but this is a sort of classic Stetson look, really, as is the shape of the hat. Now, the Stetson are also known for a thing called an open road, which is a very fine hat style of hat, and it's a much more flat hat, if you like. So what I could do is I could actually take this brim, which currently is, let's get my trusty steel measure here. It's 3.5 inch. Yeah, 3.5 inch brim. Now that's quite big, but normal. I mean, in a Stetson hat that was a cowboy style for Western style for me as a size 60, I'd expect about 3.5 to 4 inch brim size. So given that this is so much smaller, in proportion, it's the right proportions. Now, an open road would actually be significantly less, probably an inch, half inch to whatever, smaller, and it wouldn't have such a big fold here. But you could restyle this hat by cutting down the brim. I think I'm going to leave it as it is because I think it's such a nice classic style that with the popularity of country and western these days, it will be popular with anybody. But the actual fur felt has come up very nicely. You can see the colour there is nice, and it just needed to be freshened up. So a nice clean brush up, bit of steam, slight reshaping, not a lot in this one, and what you've got is a cracking hat. So I'm going to go and get my isopropanol, give the insides of the hat lining a slight clean, a couple of small marks there, which is nothing really, and that's then a really nice classic Stetson hat.
If you've got a passion for hats, keep watching the channel. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.